Finance ministers from Eurozone countries are meeting in Brussels tonight to discuss final approval for Greece's second bailout. Spain's deteriorating economy is also on the agenda. Well, for more details, let's talk to British UK Independence Party member of the European Parliament, Paul Nuttall. He joins me now from Strasbourg. Well, it's expected, of course, that second bailout will be handed out to Greece. The Greek finance minister, Nicolas Sarkozy, they say that is the end of the country's woes. Do you agree?
Well, I suppose it is if you live in a parallel universe. No, of course it's not. It's not the end of Greece's woes. It's really just the beginning. Greece is in serious trouble. I mean, you've just got to look at the amount of people who are out on the streets demonstrating at the moment. Suicide rates are up. The minimum wage has been cut. There's mass homelessness in that country at the moment. And all the European Union is doing in going down this line is it's encouraging the cradle of civilization to head towards revolution, because that's what will happen if we continue with these austerity measures.
So those austerity measures aren't the answer then. What is the answer? How do you get Greece back on that recovery path?
Well, there's only one answer, and that's that Greece comes out of the euro altogether, gets back onto the drachma, devalues, sets its own exchange rate at a competitive level, gets its exports moving, because that's if we were good Europeans, that's what we'd be encouraging. But look, these bailouts aren't about saving Greece. They're nothing to do with the Greek people. All they're about is saving the beloved euro project. I mean, Nigel Farage, my boss, had a private meeting with Angela Merkel a couple of months ago, and she let the cat out of the bag when she turned around and said to him, he asked a simple question, which was, why don't you let Greece go? She turned around and said, we won't let Greece go, because if Greece goes, others will go too. Portugal needs to come out, and Spain does as well.
So therefore, we're seeing the collapse of the Eurozone. Is that what you want to see?
It's not what I want to see, but I think it's exactly what's going to happen. The idea that Greece, Spain, Portugal and all of these Mediterranean countries could exist within the same Eurozone as a country like Germany was completely farcical from the start. And we said it. We predicted this. It was impossible that it could work. So the only way that this thing can move on is for probably the Nordic countries to form their own Eurozone, and for the southern countries to fall out altogether and go back onto their own currency.
Yeah, but how easy is that? How can you just pluck new currencies out of thin air? There surely are barriers to an exit mechanism, aren't there, in the EU? They're almost trapped within that. It's unrealistic to think you can just suddenly create these new economies, isn't it?
Well, it's happened before. I mean, you just got to look at what happened in Czechoslovakia and with the creation of the Czech Republic and Slovakia. You can create currencies, but they won't allow these countries to leave, and what they will continue to do is they will continue with more bailouts. And Wolfgang Schäuble, the German finance minister, isn't talking about a second bailout. He's already talking about a third bailout. So this 130 billion euro is nothing more than a sticking plaster over a big, gaping economic wound.
You mentioned an interesting word a little earlier, revolution, which you were referring to over the Greek situation. But we've seen, of course, those protests now in Spain. What do you make, as a politician, about the political ramifications and the way that politicians don't seem to be listening to the people's concerns?
Well, as I said at the top of this interview, the political class almost live in a parallel universe. The problems that you have in Athens now will no doubt spread to Madrid and Lisbon. And let's not forget, the Spanish economy is far bigger than the Greek economy. And if Spain goes, then Italy will also go as well. And the whole thing will spread right across the southern Mediterranean. The only way for these countries to move on and go forward, and as I say, if we were good Europeans, we would be encouraging these countries to fall out of the euro altogether and get back onto their own currencies.
But when you mentioned that word revolution, do you really think that we will see governments topple and we will see serious, widespread unrest, not just in Greece, Spain, but other European countries?
Well, I think two things are happening. I think you have serious problems in the southern Mediterranean states, where you just look at what's going on in Athens at the moment, where the people are out on the street. And, I mean, you would be out on the street. I mean, if you had a democratically elected prime minister who was removed and a Eurocrat was put in his place. I mean, look, imagine if that happened in Britain, where David Cameron was removed and we had Neil Kinnock or even Peter Mandelson put in his place. The people in Britain would be out on the street. So I think there is serious unrest in the southern Mediterranean states, and what you're seeing in the north is the growth of Eurosceptic political parties who will no doubt wipe the board in the European elections in 2014.
Yeah, talking about future elections, we're seeing obviously technocrats taking power in, for example, Greece. But what about later on? We'll see more elections. What sort of political party will we see emerging then in this very much troubled European zone, this Eurozone, European Union?
Well, I think what you will see is, heaven forbid, you might see a shift to the far right if they continue down this line, because people are very unhappy indeed. They're not just unhappy about the economic problems, but they're also unhappy about open-door immigration policies, which seem to be promoted by the European Union. So I think you will probably see a Eurosceptic movement right across Northern Europe in particular sweep the board in the European elections in 2014. And I just don't know what's going to happen in the southern European states, because maybe in Greece it's gone beyond that. Maybe you will end up with revolution, because people are very, very unhappy indeed.
Paul Nuttall, very interesting to hear your thoughts. Thanks for your time. UK Independence Party MEP, live in Strasbourg. Thank you.
Thank you.